What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Two Guys Watching Football. We are turning the page on week one. We're moving into week two. The Ravens are 1-0. All things are good. Leaving the film in the past. It was obviously a very fun week. Lots of content here on the channel. If you guys liked it, if you guys want more of that next week, hit the like button. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you're excited about, what key matchups you're looking for, who I missed, what you think about the matchups. Drop it all down below. Let's have a conversation. And of course, if you're new here, hit subscribe so you can find your way back for more. Let's get into the key matchups, starting with what I think is the number one matchup, and that is defensive coordinator Josh Boyer of the Miami Dolphins against everybody's favorite offensive coordinator, Gregory Roman. And so we all know what happened last year. It was well covered. I think one of the key things that I want to highlight is what cover zero is and what I think they ran versus what seems to be covered. Everybody keeps saying cover zero. I think cover zero is being used as a buzzword based on Sports Info Solutions. The Dolphins in that game only ran cover zero one snap. They ran cover three 22 times, cover four 10 snaps. They showed cover zero, and I'm going to show you a little film breakdown here to explain that. But a key feature of cover zero is blitzing and bringing multiple additional pressures, but they only rushed 6 different times. It was mostly a five-man rush, it was mostly a four-man rush on 27 dropbacks or a five-man rush on 17. So that's obviously very important. But I'll take time right now to kind of show you guys. I put together a little film clip just to show what the bailout coverage actually is and what the Miami Dolphins actually were doing last year. Let's get this loaded
here at the bailout coverage that the Miami Dolphins are using and how it's been effective. So you can see here they're showing a 7-man pressure pre-snap, and let's skip ahead to a little bit after the snap. And so there's two things I want to highlight. So obviously that 7-man pressure resulted in 3 players dropping. Key feature here is the number of players that drop does change, but what doesn't seem to change with the way the Dolphins do it is this important piece. Whichever way the center slides, the A and B gap defender are dropping. So these two, because this was the original other A gap defender, these two drop, and we'll see that across all these plays we look at. Again, sometimes it's just the A gap, sometimes it's the A and B gap. It'll change play to play, but nonetheless, they're basically choosing which side the center slides to, and then dropping their players based off what that shows them. But the key feature here is by doing that, and I seriously don't think the offensive line or the protection did anything wrong, but you have 2 guys blocking nobody. You have only a 4-man pressure, but Javon Holland here is coming unblocked. And so this was a completion. The Ravens did this well. It was a slant to Bateman. Everything went well, but you're still seeing what the Dolphins defense does so well. On this next one, we have the Ravens in spread. I believe it was 11 personnel, and the Dolphins are showing a 6-man pressure against a 5-man protection. So watch Bozeman slide. Bozeman slides here. So there's your A and B gap defenders. Guess who drops? Those 2 guys. Now you have an offensive lineman over here blocking nobody against a 4-man rush. 55 coming unblocked. Ball comes out. Marquise Brown drops it, which was also an issue that plagued them, lack of execution. But nonetheless, you see the way this bailout coverage is working. So they're stacking 7 again. It's a 6-man protection, but Le'Veon Bell runs a route here, so it's a 5-man protection. And then again, Bozeman slides to his left. You see 29 and 70 drop. You're also going to see 55 run a spy. So again, it changes play to play, but that A gap defender for sure, and usually the A and B gap defender is typically your bailout guys. And then 91 becomes the free rusher off this. So once again, same idea. And I think the important thing that we need to know for Sunday, this is last week against the New England Patriots. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they have 7 at the line. 55 here is going to go in man coverage, so it's not the exact same, but it's a 6-man pressure that they're showing. No tight end in, so you got a 5-man protection with Damian Harris running a route here. You're going to watch the center slide to the right here, and that means this is your bailout defender. So he's going to drop into bailout coverage like what we saw last year. So boom right there. And then the left tackle is out here on Ingram. He should have taken inside man, but nonetheless, he had two guys to block, so it's creating a free rusher nonetheless. He just took the last guy, and that's how this ended up a sack. So you're seeing them run the same thing.
So you guys can see what I mean there. So it's not that saying cover zero is wrong. I just think it's being used as a buzzword when it's really the sim pressure that they were showing and more what they were doing with those bailout coverages. It's a little nitpicky. I don't want to get that far into the weeds on it, but basically, Josh Boye put something out there that Greg Roman didn't have a great answer to. And the Ravens offense, I should say more broadly, because there was poor execution outside of just the play calling. I actually think some of the adjustments that you would make are things like screens, but then you go back and watch the screens they ran and they were just so poorly executed. So I would argue Greg Roman did do some things to react to what he was seeing from the Miami defense. His team couldn't run it. You see the drop from Hollywood. There were some poor routes ran, guys running into each other. Whether or not that was on the scheme or on the players, hard to say. But nonetheless, they got to have answers. John Harbaugh just talked about it on Wednesday, said they are going to have answers they thought about it all summer. So let's see what happens in this key matchup. Next matchup I'm looking at is Nick Needham against Devin Duvernay. I think this is a likely matchup. I think you'll see Xavier Howard following Rashad Bateman. I looked at their tendencies from last week and a little bit last year. They don't really seem to have tendencies. But what was interesting is Needham worked in the slot and out wide quite a bit. That makes sense for Devin Duvernay, who in two wide receiver sets, if Bateman and Duvernay are stacked on the same side, you were seeing Duvernay in the slot. And then obviously you would also see him out wide. So it makes sense that Needham would follow him. Xavier Howard would follow Bateman. And this is a key matchup because two reasons. I think Devin Duvernay has a opportunity in front of him to show it wasn't an outlier. I'm an every week starting wide receiver. And Nick Needham kind of got picked on last week. He allowed 5 catches on 6 targets, 96 yards, 26 yards of yak. And that one's a key because against that coverage that I just showed you guys, I think one of the ways of beating it is getting the ball quickly to a receiver's hands who can make a guy miss. What better guy to do that than getting the ball into Devin Duvernay's hands, letting him use what he's able to do in space, what we see on punt returns, what we see on end arounds. Let's see him make a guy miss. Let's see him specifically make Nick Needham miss. So I think this is a key matchup. I think this is an area that the Ravens could exploit, and I think it's a huge opportunity for Duvernay to show it wasn't just a flash in the pan. And lastly, we're looking at Raekwon Davis, the 6'7", 335-pound nose tackle against Tyler Linderbaum. I did a video on Linderbaum earlier this week if you guys want to go check it out. Basically, Quinnen Williams gave him some headaches early in the game, and he adjusted really well. I'm expecting to see Davis do the same. He lines up mostly as a nose tackle. And make no mistake about it, Christian Wilkins, Zach Zeeler, they're going to be going against our guards. They're legit, too. They could be included in this as well. Linderbaum was a huge talking point, though, and I think he's going to see a lot of Davis. Davis is a similar guy. He's just massive. He's one of those guys that could give Tyler Linderbaum problems. He has good length, good size, good strength, and he's also got quite a bit of pressure in previous years from that nose tackle position. So how can Linderbaum come into this game early, prepared, especially if they're doing sim pressures, it's going to create one-on-one matchups. And also, how can Linderbaum counters or something that the Ravens offense can do within center sliding one way and then ending up with no one to block? What can Linderbaum do in that framework? So that's what I have for you guys. If you guys think I missed something, drop a comment down below. Hit the like button if you're enjoying these videos, and subscribe if you guys are new here. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other.